Okay, let's talk about the elementary and secondary education in the United States. Now, this is compulsory, which means it's required, but the age to which it's required varies by state. So, the children are legally required to attend school until, for example, the age of 16 or 18. In Washington state, children are required until the age of 18, where they can decide themselves whether to quit school, or until the age of 16 with its in special circumstances, such as having parental permission, things like that. Okay, but basically, elementary and secondary education covers 12 years, the 12 grades. The first grade through the 5th or 6th grade is elementary school. 6th through 8th grade would be middle school. Junior high school might be the 6th through the 9th grade, but again, that varies throughout the country. Secondary school, which usually referred to as high school, is typically grades 9 through 12, and each of those years has a specific name. So freshman year is 9th grade, sophomore year is 10th grade, junior year is 11th, and senior year is 12th grade. And those 4 terms are used also for bachelor's degrees at university. Now, there are choices for your children to attend school. So you can send your child to a public school, which is provided free by the government for often from kindergarten up through the 12th grade. That there is no tuition. The textbooks are paid for. The students borrow the textbooks for the year and return them at the end. The students are not required to wear a uniform, but they might have a dress code, so certain things that they are not allowed to wear at school. You could also send your child to a private school. Private schools have a lower number of students per classroom. They are also run by different organizations, such as churches and different religious groups. So they are allowed, in that case, they are allowed to teach religion in the classroom because it's a private organization and not the government. The drawback to private school is, of course, the cost. The average cost per year to send a child to private school is about $5,000. Many schools offer financial aid, so if you're interested in sending your child to a private school, make sure to investigate the financial aid aspect of it. Also, if your child is attending high school, there is a special program called Running Start, where the child is able to attend a local college, such as a community college, and earn college credit and credit towards their high school diploma at the same time. So, for example, a student might come to the college to study math. And that math class will count towards high school and towards college at the same time. And the government will actually pay for the college credits at that point. So that's a wonderful program that's available for students. And you get twice the education for the same amount of work, or twice the credit for the same amount of work. Another choice that is becoming more and more popular is homeschooling. And in 2008, there were about 1 million students who were being schooled at home. And so that's when a parent or another educator will teach the child at home. And this allows for a lot more individualized attention. You can really tailor the lessons according to what the student specifically needs or has specific interests in. But of course, there are guidelines that are set by the state that certain topics and knowledge that the child must have. And so there's a lot of oversight for that, and there's a lot of materials available for it. And the internet has really revolutionized the homeschool industry, if you can call it an industry. All right, let's talk about the calendar. So the calendar goes from early September or late August until June, and that was started for the agricultural calendar, and that continues till today. The time is usually between 9 and 3 o'clock, but again, that varies from school to school and state to state. Transportation for public schools is provided free by the government for any child that's living outside of walking distance. About 50% of students get to class that way. Other students are driven by their parents, or in high school, some students drive themselves once they get their driver's license. In middle school and high school, there are often extracurricular activities. So there might be clubs, such as a chess club, or a dance club, or a foreign language club. There are community organizations where the students can go out and volunteer in the community, and of course sports is a big part of the extracurricular activities in the United States. These activities become very important if the child is planning to go on to university, because they not only look at how the child does in classes, but how they do outside of the classes also. So are they working? Do they, belong to the honor society? Things like that. So extracurricular activities are considered very important when applying to university. In the United States, there's an expectation that parents will be very involved in the child's education. So every year there are parent-teacher conferences, often more than once a year, where the parents and the teachers get together. The parents can see what the children have been doing in class. The teachers and parents can discuss any concerns that they have about the child. It's a good time for the parents to find out what their child is doing and how they can help them achieve more. Okay, let's move on to the curriculum. So in elementary school, in elementary and secondary, the curriculum is set by the state. So the state sets the guidelines for what is taught at each level and what knowledge they need to have in order to move up to the next grade. In elementary school, typically the students will go to one classroom. In like third grade, they'll have one teacher, and they will stay in that classroom throughout the day. And their teacher will teach all of the different subjects. They'll teach math, they'll teach science, they'll teach language arts. And then the children might go to another teacher in another room for an art class, or they might go to physical education or gym another point during the week. In middle school and high school, the students move from room to room. So they might have math with one teacher in one room, and then English in another classroom with a different teacher. In high school especially, these classes are leveled more. So you might have, in one classroom, you might have 9th and 10th graders taking pre-algebra, for example, and in another classroom you'll have 9th, 10th, and 11th graders taking algebra, things like that. So the classes are more tailored to students' interests and abilities at the secondary level in high school. Now, in high school, often in middle school and high school, students will start getting letter grades. And these letter grades go from A to F, A being the highest, and then A, B, C, D. D is considered the lowest passing grade, and then sometimes E or F. Now, anything below D or D minus is not passing the class. So an E would be considered a failure, and F is a failure. And I believe many people use E instead of an F because F means fail and E means not passing, but it's a little bit of wordplay. These letters also correspond to a grade point average, or a grade point. So an A, for example, if you get an A in a class, you would get a 4.0. It's a 4-point scale, so 4 is the highest. Then would be a B would be a 3.0, a C would be a 2.0, and a D would be a 1.0. And in between there are the whole range. You can have a 3.9, a 3.8, etc. And all of those are averaged together to get the GPA, the grade point average. So throughout the entire high school, the grades that you get are averaged together so that when on graduation, the student will have a GPA of, for example, a 3.2. And universities will look at that, that GPA for admission to the program. Um, Throughout the country, there are standardized tests that are used for a variety of reasons. One is to make sure that the education system in that state is doing what it's supposed to do. So, are the fourth graders in Washington State, are they learning math the way they should be learning math? And so they're given these standardized tests. In the past, we used what we called the WASL, but in 2010, we're changing tests. So grades 3 through 8, students will be taking the MSP, which is the Measurements of Student Progress. In high school, they will take the High School Proficiency Exam, or the HSPE. And students in the state of Washington are required to pass that exam before they can graduate from high school, which of course is the goal of the entire elementary and secondary education system, is to get students to a high school graduation.